Hey folks, I'm Michael Lovados, Torrent This is Resident Expert. Today I'm here to talk to you about that one guy we all know. That one guy who went out and read all the Game of Thrones books, and now every time you say something about the show, he just kind of looks at you like this. Yeah, cool, man. Because he knows anything he says he's going to spoil it, and secretly he's thinking that you're an idiot. Well, I have 5 things you probably could have Googled about Game of Thrones that you can jam into his smug little face. Syrio Forel could actually still be alive. For those of you who don't remember, Syrio Forel is Arya's dance instructor, dance meaning sword fighting, I don't know, in the first season. He then goes on to fight some of the King's Watch when they come to claim Arya, and we assume he's dead. The important things to note about this is, Syrio is a Bravosi. Arya's next male adult friend is also a Bravosi, Jaqen H'ghar, the man who can magically change his face. Now, I'm not saying that coincidences don't happen, but you've got 2 Bravosi men, one who can magically change his face, both of them very skilled at killing people, and they both seem to have this weird kind of mentoring sort of relationship with Arya. It's probably safe to say that they are in fact both the same people. With Arya's involvement with the Faceless Men in the most recent book and probably the most recent season of Game of Thrones, it's safe to say that the Faceless Men have had an interest in Arya since the beginnings of the book and have been making events happen around her that will end up with her in a Bravosi temple learning how to kill people. Do you remember that scene where Sandor died? No, you don't, because it never happened. We fell into the TV trope of we never actually saw him die on camera. Now that's something that's mirrored in the book. We never actually see Sandor Clegane take his final breath. What we do see, however, is Brienne and Pod later go to a monastery. At this monastery, there is a novice. Walks with a limp, possibly gotten from a battle with a giant Amazonian woman, and he's digging graves. When they ask questions about him, the brothers are a little on edge. They don't really say who he is or much about him. You can notice a few things through other characters in the books. Brienne notices that he's a large man, taller than her. Not many people are bigger than Brienne in the Game of Thrones universe, but Sandor is described as being larger than her in their first meeting. Later, you also see that his horse is there. Now, if you remember correctly, his horse is described as being half mad, who would only respond to the commands of Sandor Clegane. So the fact that the horse is somehow here and in a subdued state indicates that it's possible he's also here. The last is a subtle little nod from George R.R. Martin, who for the rest of this show will be referred to as Grum for simplicity, as I've already screwed his name up twice, forcing us to redo this tape. You see the gravedigger bend down and pat a dog. Now, a dog can also be known as a hound. Sandor Clegane was also known as a hound. You put all these things together and it's pretty safe to say that Sandor Clegane is alive and well, paying penance at this monastery by digging graves for everyone he's ever killed. Now, this may be a hard assumption to reach if you've only seen the TV series, but if you've also read the books, it becomes very apparent very early on. Jon Snow describes Tyrion Lannister as having hair so blonde it's almost white, a Targaryen trait. You also won't notice this in the TV series because, I don't know, Peter Dinklage has something against wearing contacts, but Tyrion is supposed to have one black eye and one green eye. Now, the green is very Lannister. Now, the black probably doesn't sound like a big deal to you until you look at how Daenerys is described in Book 1. Daenerys is described as having eyes that are so purple they're nearly black. There's also the point of Gurm has come out and said that the Mad King was very attracted to Tywin's wife, and let's be honest, Tywin will pimp out his sons and daughters, so it's not much of a jump or a reach or whatever word you want to use, because I'm not redoing this part, to think that he would also pimp out his wife. The final kind of point here, it's a half point, but let's do it anyway because I like this theory, is Tywin says to Tyrion, "You're no son of mine." Keep in mind, this is after he just shot him in the shoulder with a crossbow bolt, so he could have just been being a dick. Do you remember that scene way back in Season 1 where Arya is hanging around underneath the Red Keep and she overhears these 2 people plotting against the future of Westeros, saying that possibly they may need to kill Ned Stark, because Ned Stark's kind of awesome. They never really say who those 2 people were, but thankfully Gurm has come out and he said who they were for anyone that's wondering. It's actually Varys the Spider and Illyrio Mopardus. Now, I'm not going to judge you for not knowing who Illyrio Mopatis is. He only had another brief part in Season 1. He's actually the individual who arranges the marriage between Daenerys and Khal Drogo. So clearly there are some factions and some gears working in the background trying to give Daenerys her army to march across and kill everyone in Westeros well before she gets the idea to do it. Speaking of Daenerys, did you know that at the start of Season 1, she's 13 years old? So when Khal Drogo bends her over and takes her savagely from behind, 13 years old. In the book, it's even more uncomfortable because first he finger bangs her, 13-year-old. So for all you guys out there saying how hot Daenerys Stormborn is, I just want to remind you that she's 13 years old. Not cool, guys. That being said, I'd eat shit out of her asshole.